This battery only lasts about 30 minutes, so it'll beep and then I'll have to change it. This is not mine. It's the first time I've used it. One of the concerns I had when I taught Greek in college and seminary, and that I'm concerned here, is the old saw that says a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. You've heard it, right? Yeah. And so you're going to get a little bit of Greek knowledge. And so you need to learn this and share what you're learning with a healthy dose of humility, okay? Because I'm not a Greek expert. I will never be a Greek expert. You know, maybe if I've taught it for 30 years in a graduate school level, then perhaps I might think of myself as an expert in Greek. But it's a valuable tool in my toolbox to be able to use. And so be careful with what you learn in this class, because you are not an expert. And what I used to tell my students, don't ever make anybody feel that, well, I can't really understand the Bible because I don't know Greek. All right? Because knowing Greek doesn't automatically tell you everything that the Bible says. It just gives you the ability to use other study tools that are closed books to you, that are foreign languages to you. Okay? So that's the kind of attitude that I encourage you all to make sure that you maintain, is that you learn something and you're excited about sharing it, but you've learned a little bit, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on any enthusiasm you may have, but there are some, as he talks about on page 5 here, who would say, this is too dangerous, you shouldn't even teach people a little bit of Greek. And I just disagree, because I think a little bit of knowledge, it's kind of like you learn you learn your limitations. You'll learn your limitations as we go through this, as well as some things that will help you. Question? Please stop and ask me a question whenever you have one, okay? The next few pages here talk about study tools that hopefully you all know about already. You all know what a concordance is, right? Okay? Concordances are really passé, really, right now, because if you have a computer Bible, you can search for any word you want. You can search for combinations of words. You can search for the word in Greek, how many times it's used, and that's really valuable to be able to do that, because now you're not just looking at an English word that may have been translated a number of different ways. The Greek word may have been translated a number of different ways. For instance, the word love. I think you probably know enough Greek to know that there's a couple of words in the Bible that are in the New Testament that are translated love. You've heard of agape, and you've probably heard of philos. And so those are two words that are used in the Bible for love. Well, if you wanted to just do a search for agape with a computer Bible, it's easy. You can do a search for philos, or you do a search for the verbal form, agapao or phileo. So those are things that you can do. So concordance is really, I passed mine on to somebody else, so I used to have 3 of them. Strong's for the strong, Young's for the young, and Crudence for the crude. So that's what they used to say. So that was 3 different kinds of concordances that I passed on to other people. So that, commentaries, you all know what commentaries are. He mentions 5 different kinds here. Maybe you hadn't thought about that, but devotional commentaries, kind of just are, here's what the scripture says, here's what the application is, kind of jump over the interpretation. Homiletical, those are ones that give homilies or would be helpful with stories for preaching. Expositional is to expose what it says. Exegetical really digs into the detail, and then critical goes into literary and historical criticism of the text. And what I'm always looking for in a commentary is don't just tell me what you think it means, but tell me how you arrived at that. That's what I want to know. Because I want to follow your line of thinking to where you came. And so I encourage you, if you can find commentaries that will do that, those are the valuable ones in my opinion. Do you know what an introduction to the Bible is? I suspect maybe none of you have a book that's that. Generally, you'll buy an introduction to the New Testament, which is a book about 2.5 or 3 inches thick, and a book that's introduction to the Old Testament. What it does, it goes through each of the books, talks about who the author was, talks about when it was written, talks about the style, where it fits into the rest of the canon, how it came into being, all those kind of things. So that's what an introduction to the Bible is. A reference Bible and a center column reference, I really don't know what the difference between those are. But a reference Bible is one that has that column on the side or in the middle of the page that, you find the little tiny A and you look over there and it says, here's some other verses that may be related. They may be related. There might be a similar word or whatever. A topical textbook, those, again, with the internet, I'll just do a search for verses and then I'll write a topic. Marriage, so I don't want the word marriage, I want the topic marriage. And so I might just say verses marriage, and it'll come up with a search that says 32 verses on marriage. And so I just find that on Google. So a topical textbook is very limited. The internet is much less limited. Versions of the Bible, I suspect that some of you have several versions. Most of you have several versions of the Bible, and you have your favorite. I used to tell people, the best version of the Bible is the one you read. That's the whole point of it, is to read it and study it and learn it. And some of them you'll find are better for reading, some of them you'll find are better for study. I have my favorites. I had a friend who said, the best version of the Bible is you, the one that's lived out in your life. That's cute, but it's nice to have several versions of the Bible, because if you're studying a word and you come up with a meaning for a word and you can't find it in any other version, that's dangerous ground, So I'm really careful about that. If I'm coming up with new stuff from the Bible that I can't find anybody in the past 2,000 years that's come up with that, I need to really look hard at that. And I'm thinking about a thesis that I'm going to write in the next couple of years that's been rattling around in my head for 15 years, and I can't find anybody who's said the same thing. And so I'm going to be doing, looking at probably 50, 60, 70 different books to find, what other people have to say about the concept that I have, because it's dangerous ground to come up with something. We're all standing on the shoulders of the people who have been gone before us, right? So, but there's still new stuff to learn. There's no doubt about that, and there's new stuff for all of us to learn from the Scriptures. Atlases is just simply looking at a map of the Bible, becoming familiar with the geography, because that makes a difference sometimes when you're trying to interpret it. And then there are Bible dictionaries as well that are specifically Bible words. So those are all English tools. So those are behind us. We can still use those, but there are other tools that are out there that use the Greek language, and you're going to, Lord willing, learn enough that will help you to be able to use some of those tools. So, lesson 1, that's where we're at. The first 3 pages he has here is about languages and the history of languages and the development of languages, and I'm not going to go into that with you, except to say on the bottom of 1:1, just above the last paragraph, there's just a statement there. It says, Biblical Greek is the koine spoken by the people in the areas where Aramaic was the mother tongue. The one above that says the vernacular Hellenistic, the popular street Greek, the lingua franca of the period is called Koine Greek. So that's the Greek that we're studying, is Koine Greek. There's ancient Greek before that, going back to the time of Homer, but this is what was spoken at the time of Christ, and most of the people at that time in Israel, Palestine, were speaking Aramaic. You know what Aramaic is? So when the Hebrew people went into captivity into Babylon, they spoke Aramaic. That's what they learned to speak for 70 years while they were in captivity in Babylon. They came back, used the same alphabet as Hebrew. Then when they came back from exile, they continued to speak Aramaic, and that's what people spoke during the time of Jesus, and most likely Jesus spoke Aramaic as well. Yes?
Do you think that Jesus was conversant in Koine Greek?
Yeah, I think so. Because, Peter and Paul and John and Mark and all those guys wrote Greek. They wrote, I suppose there might be some people that think that the New Testament was written in Aramaic first and then translated, but there's no evidence of that anywhere. So I think that, yeah, Jesus was, did you have any reason to think he didn't?
No, I think he did.
Yeah.
He had to work before his ministry, he had to work in Sapporo and other places where Greek was spoken. His customers probably spoke Greek.
Yeah, it was a trade language. Yeah. So, but there are some small sections of the Old Testament that are in Aramaic. Part of Daniel and part of Nehemiah are in Aramaic. So, but the rest of the Old Testament is Hebrew. So, I'm going to skip over pages 2 and 3. You can go back and, for fun and frivolity, you can look at that if you like. Let's look at the alphabet. So we're gonna. I've got some lined paper here because I want you to practice writing this, and I've got pencil. So grab one and pass it on. Thanks. You want some? Yeah, I want more to run. Some of my life. Where's some lined paper? There you go. And there's lots more.
Anyone bring a pencil?
Thank you.
So, the first 5 letters are alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Some of these you may have learned from algebra class in high school. If you went farther into math, you knew more. My son was a math major in college, and so he learned a lot of Greek letters. But the script that we're going to learn is modern script. At the top of page 5, he has drawn out for you there, the author drew out for you what it might have looked like, what it probably looked like when it was first written. And I can recognize most of those. But it was what was called unctuals. When the New Testament was written, it was written no spaces between words, just all in capitals. So we learn it in lowercase because it's easy. In this chart here, there are capital letters there. You won't see those very often. Most words, the only words that are capitalized are names, and you can learn them, but let's focus on the lowercase first, okay? So I'd like you to say this with me. Alpha.
Alpha.
Okay? It's an ah sound, like father. Alpha.
Alpha.
Beta.
Beta.
And it's just a B, right? And then gamma.
Gamma.
delta,
Delta.
epsilon.
Epsilon.
Okay, so alpha is A as in father, beta is B as in ball, gamma is G as in get, or God, or whatever. What does he say? Gone. D, delta is D as in dog, and epsilon is et as in met. Okay, so here's how you. So my penmanship in any language has suffered in the last 5 or 6 years. So I remember watching my dad when he was my age, and I saw his penmanship suffer. So my penmanship is not the best. So there's my apology ahead of time. So there's an alpha. So it's above the line, and so you can practice making that. But that's how I make it. Okay. Beta starts below the line, like that. Okay? We'll do these first 5 letters. Gamma, sort of like a Y. So far I'm pleased with what I've written. Delta, that's a D. That should touch. Yeah. So that's a delta. And then epsilon is similar to an E. So please don't call this A, B, G, D, E, okay? Because this is alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, okay? So we're gonna speak Greek right from the beginning. That is, when we refer to the letters, we're going to call them by their Greek name, okay? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. So let's say it again. Alpha,
Alpha,
beta,
gamma, delta, epsilon.
You might find me slipping into saying alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon instead of alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, because I learned Greek first in algebra, and that's the way I learned to say it. But I pronounce alpha, the letter alpha, as ah. Okay? So, what I want you to be able to do is to say alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, psi, gamma, cum, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. That's what I want you to be able to do, okay?
I can't even say the English.
Is that by next
that
week?
fast.
No, but I'm going to try to help you learn to do that, okay? So I always say the first 5 letters together. It's just, they kind of come in a package. After that, we're going to go by 3s, and you'll see why. So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Sort of like A, B, C, D, E, right? It's pretty easy. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. So that's the first 5 letters. The second 3 letters, the next 3 letters, are zeta, eta, theta. See why I do it in 3s? Zeta, eta, theta. So zeta looks like that, sort of.
Can you do that again, maybe someplace
Yes.
else on the board?
Zeta's one I'm really not too good at. Like that, it goes below the line. Okay,
So it starts kind of like a 7. Would that be accurate, or is
I
it?
suppose. What does it look like? What does it look like here?
It looks like it's Arabic.
Yeah. It kind of has a Z look to it. Anyway, that's zeta. So it's just a Z sound. And then eta is like an N when it comes below the line. And that's a vowel, eta. Okay? And then theta, you probably know theta already. Zeta, eta, theta.
Isn't that the capital theta?
Capital theta is very similar, it's just a little bit bigger.
In the book it has it. Oh, no.
Oh yeah, they do it with a little curly Q on the
Yeah,
top.
they do
don't
have a little curly thing.
Yeah. And then they do this little thing with capital one. So, anyway, zeta, eta, theta. So let's say that. Zeta, theta, theta. So those three are easy, right? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Let's say those. Alpha,
beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta.
All right. I wish they were all as easy as those three. I mean, saying them. I struggled a lot, and I probably still struggle writing that letter. It's just, there's a variety of scripts. I didn't bring any other script with me. Next week we'll probably turn the room around, and I'll probably use the TV screen, and I'll have some stuff up on the screen, so you can see what other people have printed. But you can go online. I mean, there's a font that I bought called SL Greek, and I don't know if I had to buy it, if I just downloaded it, but it's a Greek font, and on my iPad, as a matter of fact, the keyboard will go Greek as well, so I can type Greek letters, and so just become familiar with it. Look at it, see how other people write it, practice writing it. It's more important that you pronounce it and recognize it than it is that you can write it, because we don't write Greek. We translate it, People say to me, "Oh, you taught Greek? Can you say something in Greek?" I'm going, "No." I read Greek. I don't speak Greek, So that's what we're going to learn to do, because we're trying to read the Bible, and so we don't need to learn to speak it. I mean, we need to learn to pronounce it, and we'll practice that before we leave today, just reading from the Gospel of John, so that you can look at Greek words and begin to learn how to pronounce those, okay? So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. And then iota, and you probably call it iota, but it's pronounced iota. Okay? It's just an I. I mean, sort of like that.
So what is the sound it makes?
E. Well, he talks about in here a short sound and a long sound, but there's no way to distinguish them. So I just pronounce all of them. There's no way for the average Greek student to be able to distinguish from.
Okay. So it just says E.
Iota, yeah. It's just like, it says like the I in machine.
Okay.
But then it also says like the I in fit. But I just typically pronounce it E. It's just easier that way, because nobody's really going to care, right? Because all you need to do is be able to say it so you can look it up. Say it in your mind, say it with your breath. Iota, and then kappa. It's K. Same size as the iota. It would be really nice if there was somebody with good penmanship that was showing you how to do this. I was born right-handed, and then I switched to left-handed, so my penmanship has never been very good. Iota, kappa, and then lambda. Lambda, which is an L sound. L-A-M-B-D-A, lambda. Yes, that's what they say, lambda. So, pretty much like English, right? LMN, same order. All right, let's practice those 11. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, iota. All right. The next three. So this is mu.
Like the cow?
Yeah. M-U. Mu. Yeah. So you see how I made that? It starts with that tail down, and then it's sort of like a U. Right? And yeah, it starts here and just does that. And then nu is very much like a V. is, it's the X, but it's pronounced xi. Xi. That actually goes below the line. Something like that. So, if we were pronouncing it in English, we'd pronounce it like a Z, like xylophone, right? If it's at the beginning of a word, we pronounce an X like a Z. Have you noticed all the different drugs that they're coming out with that have X's in them at the beginning of the word? See them advertised on TV? It seems to be a... Anyway. All right. Mu, nu, xi. That's a triad there. Mu, nu, xi. Okay? It's kind of like take the word ski and change the X and the S, or the K and the S around. Xi. Xi, yeah. And how do they say it here? Yeah. It's difficult. It's easier to say it at the end of the word, like asks. No? Yeah.
Xi.
Xi. Yeah. Okay. Mu, nu, xi. So let's go through it. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi. So do those in threes. The next three is like in English, OPR, right? Omicron, P, rho. So Omicron is just an O. Easy. Omicron. So it's pronounced, if you look at the pronunciation guide here, for alpha is as in father, and for Omicron it's as in log. Not a whole lot of difference if you practice saying father, log. Not a whole lot of difference, is there? So, anyway, Omicron, and then this one you all know, but we pronounce it P.
P. Oh no.
Yeah.
P.
And then just to confuse you, the next one is rho,
Row.
which looks like a P. So.
Hooray.
Omicron P, rho. Say that again. Omicron P, rho. Y'all keeping with me? You look like you are. I haven't seen anybody fall asleep yet, so that's good. Then, again, just like English, STU, this is sigma tau upsilon. So sigma is like an omicron with a tail. Sigma.
Okay, in the book it has a second.
Yes. So that this is your normal sigma, and then there's what's called a final sigma, and that's at the end of the word. So when a sigma comes at the end of the word, it looks different. It looks more like an S, but it goes below the line. Okay? So those are both the same letter. Final sigma, that's what the other one is called. So sigma and then tau. It's just like a little T. And then upsilon, which looks like a U. Upsilon. Capital upsilon looks like a Y.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Capital Y. So, if those are three letters, sigma, tau, upsilon. Capital sigma, of course you've all seen that. From Greek fraternities or something like that. sigma chi. Sigma chi. Okay, so sigma tau upsilon. Let's say that. Sigma tau upsilon. Okay, now here comes three that sound alike. Phi, chi, psi. All right? Phi. My sister was in a sorority called Pi Phi's, and that's P, Phi. I told her when I took a Greek class, I knew so much. I told her, well, your sorority should be called Pi Phi instead of Pi Phi's. Actually, it was Pi Beta Phi. So, anyway, Phi, Chi, which is the first letter in Christ, Christos. Some people say, oh, Christ starts with X. It doesn't start with X. It starts with Chi. And it's spoken sort of like a German CH, Chi, like a Hebrew Hala, sort of. It's got you say it clear down in your throat, Chi.
But Christ would always be capitalized, right? Then it would start with an X.
No, Christ is not capitalized in the New Testament.
It's not.
Only names are. I'm pretty sure. And Christos is not a name. I don't have my New Testament with me. I'm just thinking. It's just the word. It's the Greek translation of the Hebrew word Messiah.
It's capitalized here.
Is it? Is it capitalized there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then,
On my Bible it is.
where did you see? Oh yeah, there it is. Jesu Christu down at the bottom of the page. Yep. So I was wrong. It is. I just didn't notice. So, Phi, Chi, and then Psi. Where we get the word psalm.
Psalm.
Because that's a Greek word. Psalmoi is psalms in Greek. So, Phi, Chi, Psi. And that's not an English word that we have. We don't say, in English sound, we don't say PS in one sound. So the Xi, the Psi, He, those are sounds that we don't have in English. But even the Zeta, you notice the pronunciation guide he gives here for Zeta, it's actually not exactly like a Z. Where does he have that here? Yeah, it's like a DZ, Zeta. So, I misspoke. That is not just a plain Z, it's like a DZ, Zeta. And then the last one is Omega. Right? And you know the capital letter for that. Probably. So, let's say them together. Alpha,
Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lambda, Mu, Nu, Xi, Omicron, Pi, Rho, Sigma, Tau, Upsilon, Phi, Chi, Psi, Omega, Psi. Yeah, I said. Yeah, it's Psi. Yeah, so the I's are pronounced like E. So, Phi, Chi, Psi. Yeah, there's no long I. Well, there's a diphthong. We're going to look at that in a couple of minutes here. Are you hanging in?
Sure.
Okay. So that's the alphabet. And 24 letters. And if you can learn to say it in threes, it's always been helpful to me, except for the first five. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. So, work at that. So I don't know a way to do it except for, just when you're walking around, practice saying it. and until you're just doing it. It's kind of like I remember in grade school, I wanted to learn how to whistle, so I just kept trying to, and finally one day it came out, so you just keep practicing it, and after a while you'll be able to rattle it off as easy as you do English. So he notes here on page 5 that the pronunciation is consistent. You're not going to find alpha being pronounced A. It's just not going to happen. So we pronounce, every time you see an alpha, it's pronounced A. Okay? Same with epsilon, it's E. So, and of course the consonants are always pronounced the same.
Hallelujah. Oh, yes.
Do you know a language that doesn't pronounce the consonants the same?
Yeah,
Which one?
English.
The consonants?
It never does.
Oh yeah, C and
CH is
oh.
and that took me so long to learn. or when you throw a G in there with an H.
you got a soft G and a hard G. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
That was the worst.
Yeah, they're all the same. So now, when you put them in combinations with others, then they change a little bit. So if you notice in the second paragraph here, the letter gamma, when it's doubled in a word, it's pronounced like the NG of inning. So it becomes like an NG sound when you get a double gamma. Do you see that paragraph we're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when it joins kappa or he, gamma kappa, gamma chi, it is pronounced like NK in conch. When it joins xi, it's pronounced like NKS in oinks. So, but that's kind of logical, because when you recognize the double gamma, it becomes NG, and then so you put a K sound after the gamma, then it's unks or unk. So those you don't see real frequently. And again, the reason for learning that is so when you look at it in the text, you pronounce it correctly, you'll be able to look it up, because you know it's consistent in the way that it sounds. Here are the 7 vowel letters in Greek, and it has a short form and a long form for each one. You notice the last 3 are the same, short and long. And that's why I say for iota, alpha, and upsilon, we're not going to notice a difference in pronunciation. They're going to be the same. But the long and short and are A and O, and we have a separate vowel for that. So the short is epsilon, the long is eta, the short is omicron, the long is omega. So your and your O, your and your A. In English, our long E is pronounced E. In Greek, the long epsilon is pronounced A, more like Spanish. The E in Spanish. So. Yeah, he says when iota is short, it's pronounced like the I in fit. When long is pronounced like the I in machine. But you may ignore this. So, because we're all low roaders, we're not high roaders, okay? Now, this is going to take you back to 5th grade. Diphthongs. Do you remember studying diphthongs in 5th grade?
No,
Yeah.
more like 7th grade.
7th grade? Well, I went to a Christian school, so we were a little more. When I moved from the Christian school to the public school, they said, he's like a grade advanced. I don't know why. I guess maybe we just, I can't take any credit for it. So anyway, here are diphthongs. So like in English, top of page 6, we have the word isle. If the diphthong is AI, it's pronounced like the word I, right? We just see that, we know it. We don't think, oh, that's a diphthong. But it is. 2 vowels together form their own sound, their own unique sound. So in Greek, the alpha iota sounds the same as the AI in English. So that's easy. I. So he has written out for you here bike, dike, thigh, and kite. Okay, so those are English words that he wrote with Greek letters. Okay, and we'll do that in lesson 2 as well. It's kind of fun because you're recognizing the Greek letters, but you're saying English words that are familiar to you. So then the alpha upsilon is pronounced like kraut, owl. So cows, owl, doubt, towel. Okay. The epsilon iota, very similar to English, EI, is pronounced A. I before E except after C. No, it's not. Yeah. Or as A in a native way. You learned that, right? Some of you did, maybe. Freight. So somebody read those 4 words after that.
Paid.
Third one?
Take.
There you go. Fun stuff. I read a review of this book on Amazon, and some guy was complaining about this book. He says, he's got you translating Greek in the 2nd lesson. And if you just turn ahead, oh no, it's worksheet number 2. It's way at the back, worksheet number 2. This is what we'll do after the 2nd lesson. But there, you see there, it says worksheet 2:1. There's a whole story there written in Greek letters, but it's all English words. Okay?
No wonder he had trouble.
So you're not translating, you're simply transliterating. You know what that means, to transliterate? So you're saying, you're just changing the letters.
Yeah.
So if you take the Greek word, I get a little better when I work at it, when I'm doing a whole bunch of letters. So that's oh, I left out one letter. That's baptizo, okay? So to transliterate that is to put it in English letters. Okay? So that's one of my pet peeves is translators of the New Testament that didn't translate words, they transliterated them and coined English words from that. Because
What's
this
the last Greek letter?
omega. Yeah, so this is the verb baptize, baptizo.
Translating.
Actually, that means I baptize. It's first person singular. So that's what.
If it's transliterated, it would just be baptizo, not baptize. You have it translated, not transliterated, right?
Right, but most of it's transliterated. But it's
Right.
put into English form.
Sure.
So
Can you walk through those one Greek letter at a time? I get the B,
beta,
beta.
alpha, P, tau,
Oh,
and I stuck
that's a tau.
I stuck an iota in there because I forgot it.
Okay.
And then
Zeta.
and omega.
Omega to E.
No, again, this is, they didn't transliterate the last letter because this, so if it was you baptize, it would be baptize.
Okay.
So it depends on what form of the verb it is.
Yeah,
Baptizo
I
is
didn't
not-
understand the omega.
Yeah, baptizo is just what we call the lexical form because normally every verb in the lexicon is in first person singular. And so that was, baptizo is first person singular. So that's the vocabulary, that's the way you learn a vocabulary word in Greek. Okay, fourth one there, U, epsilon, upsilon, as in feud. So, somebody say the first one? Cute. Yeah. Q. Mule.
Mute.
Mute. So, and then we have oi, omicron, Upsilon is oil. Yeah, as in oil. Toy, boy, oil, royal. Anybody know what royal means? Oh, I guess it could be two kinds of royal, huh? R-O-Y-A-L and R-O-I-L. R-O-I-L. It's like when water is really super boiling.
Yeah. Oh,
Boiling.
you're saying oil? Not.
It's rolling.
I was like, more of a rolling.
Omicron upsilon, as in group. Say those. Troop. Duke. Truth. And booth. All right. So you're getting practice reading those, sounding out those letters. One more. We. You. Upsilon. Iota. Sweet. So, what would that first one be? Weak. Queen. Sweet. And weed.
Weed.
Yeah. So, as in weed grass or garden. I need to say something. Those two letters, I'll just throw in some of this stuff every once in a while. But when I see the upsilon iota there, that last diphthong you're looking at, it reminds me of a very important word, and that is there's three vowels: upsilon, iota, omicron. How would you pronounce that?
Wheels.
Weos. No, short O.
Yeah,
Weos. Anybody know what that means?
sun.
Yep. Yep, son. S-O-N. Weos. Did you know that? You've done some Greek. Okay. All right. There, you may ignore the next paragraph, the rare eta upsilon and omega upsilon. Now, there is a thing when there's two vowels together. There's there's an illustration. If you go to page 111, just 2 pages into the Greek. No, 1:9. At the top, it says, according to John. At the bottom, at the verse 17, hati ha namas dia mouseos. Mouseos. Have any idea what that is?
Moses.
Yes, because it's capitalized, right? It's
Right,
Moses.
that was the first clue, and then it kind of sounds like Moses.
Mouseos. So it's mo, u, and it's got 2 dots on it over it. Set, os. And so what that's telling you is this is called a diaeresis. The word is found here right under the list of diphthongs we just went through. And it says, when you see a diaeresis over the second vowel of what appears to be a diphthong, you don't have a diphthong. Okay? So each one is pronounced mouseos. Yeah. And that's just like, it kind of looks like a smiley face, it doesn't, but it's just like the German umlaut, you know, two dots like that.
So if it didn't have the 2 dots, pronounce it. If it was a diphthong, what would it sound like?
Well, it says you may ignore that.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
How
I don't
you
know.
would say that same word?
I don't know.
Could you even pronounce it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to say it, but it's rare. So I don't ever remember seeing it. Okay, here's another little note that the letters alpha, iota, and omega, sometimes you'll see them with a little, what's called an iota subscript underneath. So it's combined with another vowel, and then it just kind of, the iota just slips down underneath. Doesn't make any difference in pronunciation or anything like that, but just so if you see that, you'll say, oh, okay, that's an iota subscript. It doesn't make any difference. So, just so you know that.
Now we're going to do punctuation. There are 4 punctuation marks. And the first 2 are period and comma, just like in English. But the next one is a raised dot, and that's either a colon or a semicolon. And then the next one is what we're used to as a semicolon, and that's a question mark. Okay? So those are the 4 punctuation marks that you'll find in there. So period, comma, colon or semicolon, and question mark. So
No exclamatory sentences?
Oh.
there should be an exclamation after behold, right?
We are. Behold.
Okay, now here's another one. You need to know where to find these, right? So this is another part of the alphabet. But when there are vowels at the beginning of a word, there's going to be a breathing mark. And it'll either be what's called a smooth breather or a rough breather. Okay? So if it's, I'm trying to think of a word that starts with a rough breather.
Omicron.
Huh?
Omicron.
Omicron?
Yes.
No, that would be smooth because
Oh.
if it's a rough breather, yeah, then you would add an H sound to it.
Yeah. Say in this first verse from John, that Omicron had a rough breathing.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's an article, that's the. Okay.
Ho.
Ha.
Ah. Ho.
Ho would be an omega.
Well,
This would be ho. Okay? This is ha. So that's a masculine, singular, nominative, the. So
Masculine, singular.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
So what is this?
So it just adds an H sound. Ha. So if you'll see it over a vowel, you'll see it over a vowel at the beginning of a word.
Okay, so
Only at the beginning of a word. So if it's a smooth breather like this, no difference in pronunciation. If it's a rough breather, then it adds an H sound to it. We got to get a lot in because we're only meeting for an hour and a half in 1 week, right? Okay.
You add the H sound that's in front of the vowel.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's just by what looks like an apostrophe or a reverse apostrophe. Single one. So that's breathing marks. And then one more mark, and that's accents. So let's just look at the next page, page 9. So there's 3 kinds of accents.
French and Spanish.
No. So notice in John 1:1 here, you're looking at it, the next page, 1:9. So the first word is N, okay? And it's got a smooth breather in front of it, see? And the capital that goes way out in front instead of on top of it. And then RK has a smooth breather. That's the beginning. And then Ain has a smooth breather. And then Ha has a rough breather. So there's 4 words in a row that start with vowels, and they either have a smooth or a rough breather, okay? Or a rough breathing mark, it's called. But if you notice that second word, RK, there's your iota subscript that's under the eta. You see that? Don't be confused by that or anything. That's just what it is. Doesn't make any difference in meaning or anything like that. But the mark over the eta is an accent. And that particular accent is called a circumflex. Okay? Circumflex. And then Ain has a circumflex too. It's got a smooth breather and a circumflex. You see that? The third word. Then you go to the 5th word, logos, and it's got a different kind of accent. That's called an acute accent. Acute. A-C-U-T-E. And then Chi has a different kind of accent. It's pointed the other way. It's called a grave, and it's spelled like grave. And those are the three accents. And you don't need to remember that. The only point of knowing that those are accents is when you're practicing pronouncing them. So N, R, K, notice how accents are like people that, they get stressed, okay? So N, R, K, Ain, Halagos. Notice that ha has no accent. So we put it together, Halagos. Halagos.
Oh, no accents in the case.
Kai, Halagos, Ain, Pros, Ton, Theon. So it's not Theon, it's Theon, because the accent's on the last syllable. We could go way deeper into accents,
Please don't.
but we're not going to. So the last three syllables are called, the ultima is the last one, then the antepenult, then the man, now I can't even remember. Anyway, there's names for each of the last three syllables, and then there's names for which, if an acute is on the last one, or if a circumflex is on the third to the last one. They have names for all of those, like perispamenon and properispomenon and things like that. And in my first year Greek book, it said these terms, though formidable, will say much laborious periphrasis. And we used to say that to one another. These terms, though formidable, will say much laborious periphrasis. Okay, forget about accents. So anyway, the only reason I mention accents is so when you're practicing reading it, you're reading it and stressing the right syllable. Okay? Because we're going to practice that. One more thing. No, well, at the bottom of page 7, there's another chart. And we're going to ignore that for right now. If it comes up, those are just contraction of vowels. And it's not important right now. If it comes up again, we'll come back here and look at it. Okay? So do you understand it? It just shows, never mind, we won't even talk about it. And this other, I don't think there's really anything in there you need to know either. There's different kinds of consonants. Gutturals, dentals, and labials. Gutturals are spoken in the back of your throat. Dentals are made with your teeth or hard palate. And labials are made with your lips. And it's just interesting how there's such symmetry to this language. God chose Greek to write the New Testament because there's so much precise teaching in it, I believe. There's much of it is what we call didactic. It's teaching material. There's narratives in it. Obviously, the Gospels and Acts are narratives, but the bulk of the New Testament is didactic and it's teaching. And so I believe God chose this language because it's such a precise language, whereas the Hebrew, I believe he chose that for the Old Testament because the message of the Old Testament, much of it is written in poetry, parallelisms we call it. And the poetry of Hebrew can be translated into any language without losing any of the impact. If you translate poetry from English into Swedish, you're going to have to, it's not going to rhyme. And we're concerned in English poetry about rhyming at the end or meter and things like that. Hebrew poetry is concerned with rhythm of thought. So you can translate that into any language and still keep the same rhythm of thought. To me, when you look at what God's super intending even the languages that he chose, you can see the hand of God in this whole thing. So, let's just kind of take the last 5 minutes here and let's just practice reading. So, let's just take one word at a time. Okay? So, we'll start with Cece.
Why are we
No?
reading?
I need to learn the sounds before I can
I'm
do
not
that.
there.
You're not there?
What are we reading?
I can't.
Yeah, it's not really.
No, we can't? Can anybody do that?
I don't think I can.
No,
Can we
I'm still
flip back
like,
and
how
forth?
big-
Yeah, well, let's just do this, okay? I won't make you do it then, all right? So, somebody say the first,
I'll start.
what's the first word there?
NRK,
Okay,
Ain Hologo.
okay,
Hologo.
okay,
Ain Pros, Ton Theo.
okay.
Pause.
Pause for a minute, that's good. Have you had some Greek before?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
Yes.
So, the only thing I would say is that you're saying omicrons like omegas.
Same one.
You're saying omicrons like omegas. Because it's not a long O, it would be N, RK, Ain, halagos. It's logos, not logos. Okay? So let me talk you through it. I'm sorry to put pressure on
No,
you.
that's, yeah, it's not pressure, it's just I'm not there. so I
Okay,
don't
so,
know that.
so the first word is N. You see that? How that's
N,
N.
and the EV?
No, that's a new.
And-
Right here. New.
Yeah, that's,
So
and,
new is pronounced N. So epsilon new. And maybe it's the fact that it's uppercase, but that's lowercase n. Okay?
So you would pronounce that a new, that EV,
The second letter is a nu. It's not a V. It looks like a V.
right, but I'm just trying to,
So it
that's
would,
like my visual. to
yes,
your-
so it would be pronounced like this, N.
N, okay.
That's how you pronounce it. Okay?
Do the next one.
Okay, so the next one is arche. So alpha, rho, key, eta. So R, K, with a long A, arche. That's how it would be pronounced in English. Sorry.
All right, fine.
Just gonna take some time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just,
What you're doing right here, right now, was my goal for the whole entire class.
okay.
Like,
accomplished!
Accomplished, that's the point.
So the third word is aim, and so that would be like a long A with an N, aim. Okay? N, RK, aim. And then the next word is ha. So, ha. And then logos. Lambda, omicron, gamma. And then we have that final S, final sigma. So that's L-O-G-O, that's the way I make G's. L-O-G-O-S. So, so now, in the beginning was the word. That's what that says. RK is beginning. Is there an English word that has RK in
Archaic.
it? Yeah, but that means beginning.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of
It's
does.
very early.
Oh yeah, yeah. RK. Yeah. I won't push you any further. Except, I'm going to let you push yourselves. So let's look at worksheet number 1.
Where's that?
It's at the back of the book.
Does that say worksheet lesson 1?
Yeah, it says worksheet lesson 1, W1:1. Purpose of this assignment is to help the student recognize the Greek letters and to check how much he has really mastered, or she. The goal of the student is to be able to read the Greek letters easily and correctly pronounce the diphthongs and breathing marks. So you'll be flipping back and forth, unless you tear this out, but you'll be flipping back and forth and looking at those things.
I'll make a photocopy.
So, yeah, you can make a photocopy of the worksheet and then you can write on that. So there's two sides to it. And so if you can photocopy that, that'd be great. So for instance, in this first section, number 1, A through L, those are actually Greek words. But what we want you to do is just write them in English. So the first one, A, is drama. You see what I'm looking at? No, you're on 4. So, 1:1.
Yes, I can do this.
You see it?
I'm gonna see the worksheet.
Okay, right, so, yeah. Sorry. You're looking at the right page in the right sheet. Okay.
I really like that you gave us pencils and not pens to work.
I do the same in a math class, right? So,
So A is drama.
A is drama. Yeah,
So these are not Greek words,
they are Greek words
they just happen to translate
into
directly.
English, yeah.
But we can't expect that most of the time.
But there's a lot of Greek
This
words.
is a very select group of words.
It is. Well, I mean, the last one, L, is a word that's been translated already into English. So
That is a Greek word. That
the Greek
means
word
this-
is anathema,
Okay,
and that is a Greek word that's been transliterated into English. So the word anathema is a borrowed word from the Greek that we use in English. And I suspect some of these are as well. For instance, asbestos, the one at the top of the second column,
I actually see that.
that's a Greek word.
What does that mean in
Oh,
Greek?
don't spoil them for me.
I'm sorry.
Just saying.
There's plenty more.
This is like a cool little crossword level. Like a
Little game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have my lexicon with me to look up asbestos. I don't know what it means, asbestos.
Asbestos, it's a material, used to be used as insulation.
No, I mean, what does it mean in Greek?
Uh,
Yeah. So you can find it in a Greek lexicon. Because it says that these are Greek words. Then the next group of them are kind of like those ones we were doing with the diphthongs. These are English words written in Greek letters. Number 2. So the first one is tide, okay? And that's an English word, T-I-D-E. So that'll be a different exercise. But you're still,
These are not necessarily Greek words.
none of them are Greek
None of
words.
them are Greek words. They just happen to phonetically, if pronounced right, sound like an English word.
Yep,
So that 2A is what?
tide.
Times?
Yeah, like T-I-D-E in English.
Oh, but there is,
It's not a Greek word,
yes, but there's no E, there's no,
No.
syllable.
but you're supposed to pronounce it correct in Greek,
Oh.
and then you can recognize what the English word is. Okay? So that's what that whole exercise is about. And then on the next page, there's just asking you about the 4 punctuation marks on the top. And then again, these are not Greek words. How, ate, anyway, those are not English words, Greek words. They're English words written with Greek letters, just so you can learn how to pronounce them. So only the first exercise, number 1, are actual Greek words. The other ones are English words written with transliterated into Greek letters. But it's a useful exercise because it helps you to learn how to pronounce the letters in Greek. Okay? When you come back next week, if I've buried you, tell me, do you feel buried right now? Do you
No, I
feel
feel challenged.
overwhelmed?
No, but I feel like I need to work on it so that I can
Okay.
keep up with what you're saying.
Good. So now you see, being familiar with where the things are in the textbook will be helpful, because you'll go back and you'll say, okay, how do you pronounce that? How about that diphthong or this, because that's what the whole last exercise is, number 3, on the second page is all diphthongs, or most of them are diphthongs. And then it has smooth and rough breathers too. So that first one, paragraph 4, number A, it has alpha upsilon with a rough breather. Anybody know how to pronounce that in English? How. How. There you go. Like the English word H-O-W. So that's what you put down for the answer. Okay? We're not grading. Okay? There'll be no tests.
No pop quizzes?
No pop quizzes.